Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Mark O'Brien of CM First and a coordinator on the 14th CA2E CA Plex conference team. We've had a great response for today's webinar. We've got people checking in from a lot of places around our worldwide community, a number of time zones. And so whether it's good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, we've got a very exciting webcast planned for our community today. I'm joined here by our conference team, Roger Griffith, who's the user group president, and Summer Proch, who's our event coordinator, and then John Rhodes as webinar speaker. We've got 3 lightning talks today. And we have Tim and JP on lightning talk number 1, test data manager, and then Donna Westmoreland talking about change management on for our community, and then followed third by Andrew Leggett, who's going to talk about Plex 2E and we've got other news and so forth of interest to the community out there. As always, we do a poll question first up. So I'm looking here, the first question is, what versions of CA2 are you currently using? There we go. Would it be 7.2.1, 7.2, 7.x, pre.x, or CA, or not using CA Plex? Sorry. Question 1A is Plex only. Okay, majority, half of you who responded are using 7.2.1. And then much smaller amounts on some of the early versions than that. And then obviously some of you aren't using CA Plex because you're probably a 2E user. So the next poll question will be 1B, which is going to get at which version of 2E or sign-on are you on? Oops, this is wrong. Oh, okay. Should really be 8.7. Apologizing for the confusion on there. Should be like 8.7, 8.7.2, release 3, and so forth. 8.7, 8.7.1 is important, or you're not using CA2E. And can we see the results? Okay, so majority of you are on one of the later the later releases, a quarter of you. And then lesser amounts, like 15, total of 15% on early versions. And then obviously some of you aren't using 2E because you're probably a Plex user. So we have quite an agenda. I'm going to go through the agenda briefly and then turn things over to Roger to explain a little more about what's going on here. Roger's got a bunch of conference highlights to walk you through. And then later on, after Roger talks, we talk about the third day, the boot camp option, and then Summer will be talking more about the venue itself and logistics and costs, and then followed by lightning talk number 1 with JP Gallo and Tim Higgins on test data manager, followed by Donna Westmoreland of Midrange Dynamics talking about change management, and then John Rhodes and Andrew Leggett will be talking about lightning talk 3 about latest news and releases. And as always, we need your feedback on the poll questions, and I believe there'll be a handout also for today. Next slide, a reminder always to type your questions in at any time into the webinar console, and we'll answer them at the end. So Roger, I'd like to turn things over to you.
Thank you, Mark. All right, so it's hard to believe it, but here we are on the 14th Plex 2E Worldwide User Conference. It's hard to believe that we've had 13 of these things, and it all started back in Boise. Who would have thought we'd now be on number 14? But anyway, this conference is in Austin, Texas. It's October 15th through the 17th, Tuesday through Thursday. A little different than in the past. We've usually done Monday through Wednesday, so we're changing things up just a little bit. It's still 3 days of learning, team building, and networking. The theme for this year's conference is on AI and modernization. And as Mark mentioned, we're holding a boot camp, which is something that we started last year, and it was a tremendous success. So we're going to keep it going. So for those of you who have an interest in the boot camp, we definitely look forward to seeing you participate in the boot camp. So as we've done in previous conferences, we're offering this conference either as in person or virtual. And of course, our preference is that you attend the conference in person. And we have some very exciting special events that we're doing in the evenings. Okay, so as I mentioned, the overall theme for this conference is on AI and automation. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to implement AI and RPA. We're going to look at some ways that you can use AI to better understand your applications and both Plex 2E and legacy, how to modernize the applications using AI. We've got some very exciting keynote speakers who are going to be talking, and we're also offering hands-on training on Thursday. So now we're doing poll question 2, and that is a very important question. That is, are you planning to attend the conference? So your options are yes, you're going to attend in person. We hope you check that box. And if you can't do that one, then please attend virtually. Or no, you're not able to attend, or maybe. At this point, we're hoping everyone checks that first box. We're 10 weeks out from this conference, and we really need everyone to join us at this conference and keep this thing going, and hopefully we'll have a 15th conference next year. I'm really hoping everyone selects that first option. When we see the results, I'm hoping that's 100% for the yes. No, didn't quite make 100%. We got 30% of you attending in person. No one virtually, that's interesting. 43% no, and we've got 26% maybe. We need to get that 20%, 26% of you who are maybe, we need to move you to the yes in person column. So hopefully at this webinar, you'll see some stuff here that will encourage you to join us at the conference. As we mentioned, we have some keynote speakers. So this is talking a little bit about day 1, which starts 2 to 3 is going to be registration, with the conference kicking off at 3 o'clock with a 30-minute welcome to the conference session and introduction of our sponsors, which are really critical that they keep this conference going. And at 3:30 to 6 is where we're going to have our keynote speakers. They're talking about AI and automation, and 2 of our keynote speakers are Broadcom and IBM. And then at 6 o'clock is when we have a really fun opportunity at Top Golf. It's going to be dinner and hors d'oeuvres and all kinds of fun stuff at the Top Golf event venue. So that's going to be a really fun opportunity for everyone to get together and do some networking and just have some fun. Day 2 is when we have our general sessions with 2 tracks. So that runs from 8 o'clock until 5 o'clock. So there is an automation and modernization track, which is going to talk about some practical uses of AI in your Plex and 2E applications, how to implement automation, modernization of your legacy applications, and DevOps. And the next track is for Plex and 2E, and that is going to contain customer show and tell sessions, as well as tips and techniques, which is always a very popular session for both 2E and Plex, where you're going to see some new ways to use these tools to get value out of these application development tools. And we're also going to talk about some release and feature information. And then at 6 o'clock till 8 o'clock is where we have another special event night hosted by CM First, and it's guaranteed to be a lot of fun. So you'll definitely want to join us for the special event night. Day 3 is our day of hands-on training. It runs from 8 o'clock until 3 o'clock with 3 tracks. Track number 1 being Microsoft Azure AI Studio. talking about both basics and advanced. Track 2 is our legacy modernization track for both TUI and Plex, and the third track that we're offering is on automation, and it's managed file transfer and robotic process automation. And then the conference ends Thursday at 3 o'clock. And you can hop on your flights to get home and be home Thursday night.
Great. In addition to our conference, as Roger said, we've had this TUI and Plex boot camp and training, which will begin on Wednesday and then through on Thursday. I definitely recommend this for people who could be new to either TUI or Plex, or recently perhaps in a management role, or recent hire. It doesn't replace a full training class, but it's really an intense training in basics and a lot more, so that you'll acquire a functional grasp of these technologies and acquire some of the in-demand skills that are dictated by using it. We've got free access to a training environment and remote support from the instructor post-conference, and so you're in a separate track, but you're also getting all of the benefits of being there with the conference attendees. And I do know that because we're working with a lot of people that used to be directly Broadcom, and now have got their own, renewing TUI. We just want to let those people know that you can do that, and this is a really good way to immerse people who might have been using TUI a long time ago, or Plex, and now are coming back into it. So, as well as managers and analysts who don't need to know the ins and outs of coding necessarily, but they do need to understand the foundational concepts of this as well too. And then pricing, we have super early bird pricing. Technically expires at the end of the day today. We've agreed to extend it for another week. So I'm talking about 26% there that are maybes. We can do in person. You buy 3, you get 1 free. Virtual is only $99 for now. That's going up also. And then on the 7th of August, we'll take all of the people that have purchased in-person tickets, and one of them will be awarded an F1 3-day pass for the Formula One race, which happens the weekend after the conference. So that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, with the conference getting over at 3 o'clock on Thursday.
All right, so this is a very important part of this conference here, where we are reaching out to you asking for speakers. Like we've always said, our speakers are the rock stars of this conference. They're really what make this conference go. And there's 3 opportunities here for you to speak if you're at all interested. For both Plex and TUI, we offer a tips and techniques session, and it's always the most popular session at the conference. So if you have some things that you're doing with Plex or TUI that are kind of unique, outside of the box, stuff that's creative, we would love it if you would share that information with the attendees of the conference. It's always the best session of the conference. So I really encourage you, if you have anything that you'd be willing to offer, please reach out and let us know that you'd be willing to speak. Another opportunity that we have for both Plex and TUI is the show and tell, and that's another opportunity where you can kind of show the attendees some things that you're doing in your application that are creative and things that really add value to your applications, that kind of unique things that you are doing. Another very popular session. And then if you have some experience with modernization, we would love it if you would please join us as part of the modernization roundtable, another speaking opportunity. So if you have any interest in any of those 3 areas, please reach out to us and let us know. Go to our website and give us your feedback on that, and let us know that you'd be willing to speak, and we would love it. One thing to mention is if you're a speaker at the conference, we waive your registration fee. So there's another opportunity there. We strongly encourage you to do that. So we're still looking for a few speakers in all three of these areas. So if that's something that you can do, we would really appreciate your willing and offer to help us out with this conference.
Well, Roger, I'd also like to add, we've had people in the past have attended as part of a team, customer team, where they're doing something in each one of these areas. They're having, you know, an executive at the round table, and then they're doing a show and tell or tipping technique too. So that's another way of keeping the costs down for attending. So now this is in the top of your head. Are you interested in speaking? Yes, no, maybe. Very simple.
There's only one correct response. That is yes. The other two, we hope no one selects no or maybe. The response has got to be yes. We probably should change 3 to probably. So we got yes, go off here, and then probably.
See those results. Well, about a third said yes or maybe, Roger.
Okay, we're going to take those maybes, and we need to get those folks off the fence, and we need to get those folks to join the yes column.
Come on
there.
down. Austin's beautiful in October. So
absolutely.
Great. Thank you. So our next point of business is to talk about sponsors. We've got Broadcom, CM First, A&I Solutions, as well as Midrange Dynamics. They're a new sponsor, and they've got you'll see some of what they've got to say today, as well as Sodiza, Latin American, and Futura Sistemi in Europe. And I'm going to turn it over to Summer to talk a little bit more about the venue.
Sure. Hi. So the conference is going to be held at Topgolf. It's a major tech event venue, and it's located from across the domain with lots of fun stuff to do. And also, it's next to the hotel, walking distance to Topgolf. And it is 20 minutes away from the airport and from downtown, which Ubers and taxis are easy accessible to. The next slide. So the hotel is Home2 Suites by Hilton, and rooms are actually selling out. So the registration link is on the Plexi website, and after September 6th, the rate is going to increase. Right now, it's currently $209 per night, but after September 6th, the rate's going to increase. So you should go ahead and book it. Thank you.
Now I'll introduce lightning talk number 1, which is Broadcom's Test Data Manager, and Tim Higgins and JP Gallo will be reporting on that solution.
All right. Thank you very much, Mark.
All right. So hello, everybody. Tim Higgins, and we're going to talk about TDM. So I'm Tim Higgins. I'm a TDM Knight. What that means is I handle what used to be called SWAT. I handle complicated customers as if it's something that has to be written in code and things like that. Because I've been a senior solutions architect for over 15 years for A&I Solutions. We've been a Broadcom partner and CA partner since '99. Before that, I've been a developer for over 30 years. And of course, I handle all the DevOps products within the Broadcom framework. Now, with me is JP Gallo, as you guys heard me talking to. You all heard me talking to. He's a senior account director. He's been with A&I for a little more than 3 years, been with Broadcom CA for over 25 years. And something really cool that I didn't learn until I saw this slide deck is he likes pickleball. So,
who doesn't? So
yeah.
and Tim runs on coffee and good music. So
that's right. So I'm a developer. I have coffee in my bloodstream. So let's talk about TDM, right? So Test Data Manager, what does it mean and what does it mean for me? Now, I'm not going to read the slide deck because everybody hates that situation, but there's some really good points to point out here. TDM, the concept is, I call it the Swiss Army knife of database tools. But what it really does is it helps me get my test data better and correctly. One thing you'll notice here in the screen, 70% of all test data creation is done manually. I kind of think it's more than that, especially coming from a background as a developer. Especially today with modern languages with Python and Golang and things like that, it's so easy to create mock data, but is it correctly and is enterprise ready? And what does that truly mean? So TDM does 5 things at a very high level, almost perfectly, right? When I say almost perfectly, sometimes you have to do some customization, but it can still be there, right? So it's saying that when you have your custom homegrown apps, can it really hit all 5 of those categories? Does it keep consistency throughout your databases? And when you talk about create synthetic data, how realistic is that? Does my test data match my production data without being production data, right? That's worst case scenario. Or does it, or do we keep those relationships even within databases that normally don't have relationships? And we'll look at that in a few minutes on a couple of slides, but the concept is we have a lot of endpoints, and I apologize if I'm talking fast. I'm trying to cover a lot in a short period of time. But with saying that, we cover a lot of endpoints, what we call endpoints, or if it's atomic databases like SQL Server and Oracle, or if it's NoSQL databases like Mongo and Hadoop, right? So what if I'm trying to keep the relationships between CSV files, JSON files, and Oracle files just to produce data for a testing endpoint or for a load test, right? So we'll cover some of that in a few minutes. Let me just cover these real quick. So again, it's an enterprise solution, right? So it's going to be supported through your whole enterprise. That's one of the biggest things, not just some custom script that may or may not break, written by somebody who may leave or be around forever. We also give you a nice little portal that has an interface where most of the customers say, hey, my developers want to come in and request data, and I want the secret engine to produce it in the background. And we provide that for you. The most importantly is, in my opinion, is compliance. Are you meeting your PII standards, right? That's a big hit for a lot of corporations. And everything in TDM is driven to an API in the backend, or can be driven to an API. So then you can integrate that into your CI/CD pipeline and generate this data or mock this data on the fly as part of your sprints or your releases or however you need it, okay? Now, let's talk about the 5 things it does really quickly. Data generation, so I kind of mentioned that. It has a very strong formula that you can create where you can pull data from anywhere and generate that data very, very realistically. Subsetting, and I'm going to highlight this hopefully if I have time here in a few minutes, but subsetting, there's a very, very fine difference between subsetting and cloning. Cloning means give me everything, but 99% of the time when you go to a customer, you don't need everything, right? You only need a subset of that data to meet that use case. Now with that, we call that a model. Based off that model, then I can generate data, or I can pull it from another source. Hardly ever do I come to a customer and they say, yeah, we just need one of these, right? Truth is, most time you need all of these. So now once I subset data, I'm taking a copy of data from some location to another location to generate my model. So then we have a mechanism that helps you identify PII. Now it can go schema level or it can go data level. Now, not too far in the data level, right? Because that could take you decades, right? But enough to say, hey, this looks like a social security number, or this looks like a first name. And what that would do, it produces kind of like this image you see here. It produces a heat map to say, hey, these definitely have PII. These could have PII. These are good to go. So within your model that you created, you don't have to look at everything, right? You can only point it down to what you need. Now, once you identify what is PII, then of course, the next step is to mask it. So then we have masking jobs based off rules that you create or that we can help you create out of the box to mask that data along the way. That way your end users are using this data from your model that was partly generated, partly pulled from a different source, many different sources that are completely safe, that are not production data. Okay, so if your developers come in and say, hey, we need a JSON file to test the new functionality through this API, we can do that within a couple of minutes versus what usually takes months. The other thing too is if you're testing that special use case, you can also save that. You can say, save this user so nobody can change it because this is our testing user. And it's not just user, it's you're saving this part of the data that nobody can change and you can pull up later. Now I kind of ran through those quickly, but those are the things it does very well. Now to keep it, very fastly here, some of the key points is scalable mass data. So we can go horizontal and vertical with our scaling because masking data could be a big job. That's something we can support. Again, cloning, consistent deployments. Your data is very consistent being deployed throughout. We create it very developer friendly. So we have a very rich API, as I said at the beginning. So everything in TDM is a job. I then can make that job public to an API. And when I say public within your domain, right? Not public to the world. So you can execute that job again, or if it's masking, subsetting, PII, or whatever, that makes it part of your pipeline. Okay. And again, secure data and the built-in orchestration, which is kind of, you can do pre and post activities based off your deployments. We call them deployments. Okay. Now with saying that, I normally give this presentation, it usually takes about an hour. So I'm kind of crimming it down. But these are some of the best use cases. Some of these are mostly common sense, but secure data to me is probably the biggest one. We do support cloud integrations. Right now, it's not a cloud app, but we do support cloud integrations. All my demos are in Amazon, so I use RDSs, SQL Server, and Oracle. Again, Mongo, many different data sources. I do want to put these in real quick so you can see the PII, the masking, the auditing is pretty straightforward. We help you prep it, we being myself or somebody like me. And then once you see it, it's not complicated. You can run it over and over again. If I add stuff to my model, I rescan my model. I talked about that a few seconds ago. And then that helps you identify this heat map that you can say, this is PII. Once you identify something as PII, then you identify what rules are on that PII. And that sounds very complex, but it really isn't. Those rules are, this is a social security number. This is a first name. You're basically tagging it, and then it uses formulas in the background to mask that data. And you have a lot of control of how you want that to be. Again, we support many different data types, where if they're NoSQL, which usually is just a JSON file, we're all the way up to Hadoop or Cassandra. The biggest thing is we also support, I have not found a SQL database that we do not support, if it's Oracle, MySQL, or so forth. So we support many different types, and the best thing is all those types can be merged into your model. So it's not a one database fits all, it's all can fit into my model. And that's it. I kind of flew through that. I've got about a minute and 15 seconds left. I know I covered a lot and it's short, but I'm pretty sure there's ways of reaching out to myself or JP if you have questions. And of course, I'm assuming for you have questions, you can put them in the chat. JP, I really did sum that up quickly. I am going to go back to this slide because this is probably the most important slide of them all.
Which one is that, Tim? Because I think I have the.
Yeah, the what it does for you. And again, yep, go ahead, JP.
Yep, it's up there. I was going to say, and I'll add too. I know you talked about some of the data source types. The products licensed by the number of test data engineers you have that would basically create data generation rules, masking rules, etc. And then obviously you'll have consumers, data consumers that would be consuming the data. And as Tim mentioned, the data source types, the tier ones are obviously the most popular ones, the Oracle database, Microsoft SQL. I think of importance here to the audience today is DB2 on I. And then there's also some tier 2 data source types such as Sybase, Postgres, MySQL. And then and it does also integrate with different mainframe technologies as well, such as IMS or DB2. And the solution supports flat files as well. So so yeah, just some additional information on what it does and does not support, what it does support. Oh. So Mark, any questions on?
Yeah, great job, guys. And if somebody, if you want a demo, just put that into the chat or send it to info@plex2e.com, the conference website, and we'll follow up and make sure that you get served. Thanks. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Our next lightning talk is going to be delivered by Donna Westmoreland of Midrange Dynamics. And Donna will be talking to us today about the latest technologies for change management on the IBM I. Yeah, and I see your cover screen there. Donna, take it away.
My name is Donna Westmoreland. I am the CTO at Midrange Dynamics North America. I'm going to talk to you about the MDChange product suite, which is designed by the Midrange Dynamics team that is global out of Switzerland, and the MDNA team, or the North America team, that does your local support. We're going to be talking a little bit about how you and the IBM I-centric world, because we are an IBM I-centric tool, can embrace DevOps and the CI/CD pipeline, become part of your enterprise pipeline process without losing the uniqueness that is part of the IBM I object creation and management features. So as we talk about a CI/CD pipeline, a lot of times the IBM I guys are kind of left out on the side because nobody really knows exactly what they do. No matter what type of applications we're writing or whether we're supporting an existing 2E application along with creating new applications and modernizing our applications. With MD, we can communicate not only among the IBM I partitions that we're supporting, but also to communicate out to external tools for project management and even to the CI/CD pipelines to trigger events, either as MD being the orchestrator of the pipeline or participating in an existing Azure or Bamboo pipeline and triggering events that are IBM I centric at the appropriate time during the life cycle of a change. MDChange is a whole suite of products that are available to us to make sure that on the IBM I we can support every portion of that DevOps cycle that is important to everyone. MD Workflow is our enforced workflow tool. It makes sure that we can orchestrate our pipelines. It makes sure that we go through the appropriate quality gates, fill out all of the appropriate pieces of information that needs to be gathered for sign-offs and approvals and all those things that need to happen. And we can use it to trigger events inside the change management cycle itself. We have a tool called MD Test, which is designed for IBM I unit testing of our programs. It helps to generate the code for the unit test. It allows us to incorporate that program or sets of test programs directly into the change management process so that it can either be run on demand or be automated through one of our templates to kick off as we promote into a particular environment, return back automated test results and code coverage results. That makes it very much a part of a true CI/CD pipeline. Our pipeline tool is designed through REST APIs to communicate to all kinds of external tools that are out there, whether it's Jenkins or Azure or SonarQube or whatever we might need to communicate with. We can do it through our REST API function, which are generated from our MD REST for I tool. Central to MDCMS is going to be the core component, which controls how we manage change within our environment, whether we're doing it in a single path to production or through branching, whatever feature we need to have, incorporating Git, or through our source files. MDCMS is able to manage those for us. We have a number of IDEs available to us. MD Open is our developer platform, and the access to those features are available to us in RDI or in VS Code, and of course through green screen. The cross-referencing tools designed to let us know about relationships between all of our objects, because we all know in the IBM I world, we need to know about binding and how objects get bound together. We need to know about databases and all of the indexes and views that are built over our databases, what kinds of constraints are there, all of those things that need to be reapplied. We know about how to manage journaling, triggers, all the things that are very unique to the DB2 world. The different tools that are designed for us, one of the ones that we do have and do support is our Synon 2E interface, so that I can identify through my model what changes I'm making. MDCMS is going to know about those changes because we're going to tell it what we're modifying. The connection between the model and the objects that are genned is all part of the MD process to make sure that things move smoothly from one model to the other, from one test environment to another, and on out into production. applying the appropriate security in place, making sure the objects are built the way they're supposed to build, and incorporating the ability to have Synon-based objects and IBM I native-based RPG or COBOL that's being created, along with anything else that we can support on the I, whether it's an open source tool like PHP or if it's Java. We have the ability to manage those within the MD tool and promote them as they belong together. When there are connections and relationships, we know about that and are able to manage that. So whether I am doing a sign-on to E modification or a native modification, MDCMS allows us to manage those together, promote them together as one, and make sure that if anything goes wrong, we can roll it back to its previous state. So knowing that we have control over security, rollback, ownership, all of those things are built into the MD tools. And like I mentioned, we have an RDI interface. So if you're used to using RDI, or the most popular these days, VS Code interface, we have the ability to look at those tools together. And each individual developer gets to decide which tool he's working with at any one point in time. And he can move between the different tools. There's no additional cost to you do some things in VS Code and some things in green screen and some things in RDI. You use the tool that's best suited to the function that you need to perform, and MD is going to be there to support you. One of our main features inside of MDCMS is managing databases, because that's a really critical part of the IBM I world, and MD Transform is one of the tools that helps us to do that. It is designed to help us to eliminate the need for conversion programs or post-install data manipulation programs, because what it's going to do for us is look at my old format of my file and my new format of my file, determine exactly how to generate an insert SQL statement to manage that. In addition, it lets the customer decide if they need to manipulate, or I should say the developer needs to manipulate that insert SQL statement with any valid syntax. So I can really build into my insert SQL statement all the things I might have had to write a conversion program before. So I can change from alpha to numeric, I can expand a field, I can concatenate two fields together, I can pull data from another field and populate a new field, I can add a new date field and put in the appropriate dates, identity columns, any of those things I need to do. MD Transform helps me to do that in one fell swoop with our insert SQL statement. Sorry about that. It also is available to help us to refresh our test data, and with the use of a data copy template that allows me to pull in the data not only from my development system for testing or all to a test box, but across from production into a test system. It also allows me, because I'm using an insert SQL statement, to obfuscate any confidential data or scramble information however I choose to do so. So it helps to desensitize the test data, allows us to put it on a test system for good testing based on what we have truly in production at any one point in time. It works together with another tool inside of CMS called MD Rapid. And MD Rapid is our database tool that helps us to manage changes by minimizing downtime on the IBM I. So we all know if we're making a database change on the I, we have to have a lock on that file to be able to make that change. With MDCMS and MD Rapid together, what we do is we build the new file in a staging area, we populate that file with our current production data, keep it in sync with a monitoring job that goes out and looks at our journal receiver and applies the changes directly into our new version of the file. We rebuild all the indexes over the file ahead of time. So I can start this process ahead of time, and MDCMS will keep it in sync with production up until the time I am scheduled to go live. And I can schedule that go live by within a time window, or I can manually say, Yes, we know our environment is going to be quiet. At this point in time, I'm going to be able to get a lock on that object. And when that occurs, then we can start our promotion into the environment. And that lock that we need to put on the file happens. We move the old file and all of its indexes into a backup library. We move the new file and all its indexes into production. So in microseconds, I am able to take old files, move them out, new files, move them in, and put all my programs in. And in just a matter of a couple of minutes, I'm back up and running. And instead of taking hours and hours to rebuild a file and having downtime that we have to schedule and manipulate, we can do these in very short implementation windows. My example here on the screen is talking about a really huge exercise that a customer did where they were making changes to 2,000 tables. Most of us are making changes to a couple of tables at a time, but sometimes when we have failed expansion projects, it's not so easy. And so this allows us to make database changes where before we felt like they were impossible. Now you have that ability to do that with MD Rapid. So keep in mind, our tools are designed to be very IBM I centric, but to help you to not only maintain existing applications, but be able to grow your environment. With MD, what we find is that our customers have the greatest ideas, and we use that. About 85% of every new release from of the MDChange tools is coming from our customer base, asking for new things, suggesting new things, wanting to incorporate something into the process. So in our roadmap for CI/CD, we make sure that we can not only communicate through our REST APIs to other tools, but that we have the greatest tools on the IBM I to support that particular environment, especially knowing that in many shops, the IBM I is the system of record. That's where the majority of the database really resides. And so we want to make sure that not only do we know about what's going on in those other environments, that we can coordinate with those other environments, but most importantly, we can do the things that we need to do at an IBM I shop to protect our environment. So I talked really quick, and I hope I covered most everything. Like I mentioned, MD is always in using the agile development concept to make sure that we're getting things to our customers very, very quickly. We're always evolving and changing, listening to our customers and reacting. So I appreciate your time, and I know I may have run almost a little bit over, and I apologize for that. But hopefully, if you're interested in MD, feel free to reach out to us, md-na.com or midrangedynamics.com, or our websites. We'll be happy to talk to you about our solutions and how we can help you. Thanks, and I appreciate your time today.
Great job, Donna. Thank you. Next up, our last lightning talk is going to be a combination of John Rhodes and Andrew Leggett. So without further ado, and just pass over control there. Here we go, coming back to us.
Okay, so I'm going to introduce Andrew Leggett. And he's going to be talking about CA Plex 7.3, which just came out, I think, last month, and kind of give a preview of what's there, and we'll be going into a lot more of that in the conference itself. But I wanted to start out by addressing something that happened last month as well. This crazy rumor came out. And I've actually used to work for a Synon CA, and we would hear this rumor come out every couple years, but hadn't heard it in a while, but it kind of came out again for probably the 10th time. And that was that one of the vendors in the space, one of our competitors, announced on a webcast that IBM was dropping support for PL1, and therefore everyone's CA2E application was going to stop running. So you better get out of CA2E as fast as you can before that happens. And said it with a great deal of conviction, and we got kind of a flood of emails and support calls in, and people just scared and weren't sure what to do. And so anyway, so we felt like we had to address this, or ask IBM and Broadcom to address it, which they did. So I don't know if folks are on the Broadcom forums. but they did make a response. Okay, and it basically said, we want to ensure all our CA2E customers that Broadcom is committed to maintain and support CA2E for the foreseeable future. And they're going to make any announcements officially from their website, et cetera, and there is no impact of the Broadcom purchase of CA on anything. So they said that, and I thought, well, I'm going to also go out to IBM and see what they have to say. So I got a meeting with Tim Rowe, who's one of the top 3 guys in the IBM I ecosystem, and talking about that, and he started laughing, basically. And I guess he was the one that made the announcement 10 years ago that IBM PL1 was no longer going to be sold to new customers on the IBM I. So if you want PL1 now on the IBM I, you're out of luck, you can't get it. But if you already have it, you're free to use it. And there's a lot of enterprise customers, including IBM, that are still using it to build products. There's a lot of products that just don't work well in RPG or COBOL, and more effective in a pointer-based type product like PL1. So lots and lots of code out there on all platforms, the IBM I is being one of the main ones. And he did not see a scenario where PL1 would no longer work. So, couldn't commit to that, but it just didn't see a scenario because of all of IBM's code that they have in PL1 also wouldn't work. So again, just no basis for this rumor. So everyone can rest easy. I guess that was it. So wanted to just say that and just kind of put my take on it, but it came from 2 pretty credible sources. Okay, so with that being put to rest, I guess I'll pass it over to you, Andrew. Thank you, presenter.
Okay, thanks, John.
Talk about new stuff with Plex.
Okay, right, thanks. So yeah, as John mentioned, we have a new version of Plex 7.3. So I've installed it, done a test drive on it, and I'm going to share with you what I've found. So first, let's look at the recent history. So going back about 10 years, we used to get regular annual point releases. So 2014, we had 7.1, and the last major release was 7.2.1 in 2016. But since then, we've had these refresh packs, so I've been getting those fairly regularly. So we're on refresh pack 6, and these all get applied to the latest release, which was 7.2.1. So it was a welcome surprise to receive a new release. So 2024, we get Plex 7.3, and I would expect any future refresh packs will be applied to this version. So the features in this release, the main motivation for it, I expect, is support for Visual Studio 2022. So previously, there was support for 2013, and that's no longer supported by Microsoft. So if you've got a WinC application, then this is a kind of important release for you if you want to sort of continue with supported Visual Studio. In addition to this, we have, they've updated the support for the .NET framework for those generating for the .NET platform, and it will now support 4.8. And the other change is an improvement to the model configuration settings. And there are handouts in the GoToMeeting window. So I've got some links on these slides, so you can visit this link to find out more detail about these features. So we'll talk about them a bit. So yeah, Visual Studio. So as I mentioned, 2013's reached the end of life, and I know from previous uplift projects, getting the right edition of 2013 was difficult. There was like different editions. You had community, professional, team, enterprise, ultimate. So it was very confusing, and I think only a few of those would work. But with 2022, there's just 3 editions: community, professional, and enterprise. I tested it with a community edition, which is I'll call it the free edition, but it's like free with an asterisk. There are license terms, so you will need to visit this link on here to check if you can use the free version. If not, there's the professional edition and the enterprise edition with extra bells and whistles if needed. For .NET, previously 4.6 was supported, but now we can build for 4.8, and that's the latest version for .NET. And the other update is to the model configuration settings. So I think this was introduced in Refresh Pack 5, where you can have like a named configuration for these combinations of variance levels, versions. And this is useful if you say you've got a model and you're developing for C++ clients as well as web clients, maybe different versions and levels. This just allows you to kind of switch between them. So they've changed it now so that you can configure where these settings are saved. So previously you had this model saved configs object, source code object, which contains all the settings. With there just being one object in the model, there's a chance for conflicts if you've got multiple developers setting these up at the same time. So with this setting, you can save it in your build file. So you can associate it with a local model, and you can set your own config object, and that way you can make your changes without affecting anyone else. So I just did some testing just to test out the different platforms, just make sure everything was working as expected. So yeah, tested the WinC application and built it with the Visual Studio 2022 Community Edition. So it still uses the MFC libraries, so generating building, it looks exactly the same as you would expect, but it's not backwards compatible. So if you have a previous application that's been built using Visual Studio 2013, you will need to regenerate and build all the DLLs to go forward, but you will have supported Visual Studio for that. Tested the .NET generation, just built directly out of Plex, and used the build engine 4.8. And again, no surprises, everything just works. And I'm still impressed after all these years that Plex can do this. You can just switch configurations. Tested web client, and it works fine. There was no changes to the runtime, the Java runtime. So everything seems fine there if you're going to want to go forward with your web client. And for Java client, just for completeness, I tested it out with Java 8, 11, and 17. No problems, everything seems to work fine there. And just got about a minute left, so just a few little notes here. The installation exactly the same as previous. We have new branding. It now says CA Technologies, a Broadcom company on the logo. And there is an upgrade path from 6.0. I have tested 6.1, and that will upgrade to 7.3. I didn't find any problems with the models. And yeah, basically the about box has changed with the new logo. So yeah, if you're looking to get Plex to the latest, then if you're using WinC, this is an essential upgrade, but you will need to regen your application. And for everyone else, it's kind of a small step, so there's not a lot of disruption. And I think we've just reached 11 o'clock here, so I'll hand back.
Okay. We've got one final poll question. I know we're running just a little bit long here. Our last poll question will be, registering and getting more information, okay, on our site. So go to plex2e.com, the conference website, or info@plex2e.com. And remember, early bird pricing ends week from today. So this is the last question here. What are you interested in learning more about? It's really important. This will have an influence on our selection of content for the tracks at the conference. Interest in software testing, CI/CD, change management, perhaps the latest releases of our software or other software related to that stack, or other. And let's see those results. So latest releases, obviously, that was very timely. Thank you for your words, Andrew. We'll be working on 2E and latest things there too. Quite a bit of interest in testing as well as change management and other. So I want to thank everybody for their time today. And as you leave, there was another handout that we have, our handouts and some questions that we'll have to ask you. So as we said, register and get more information, go to plex2e.com. And everyone have a great day and a great week. And those of you in the Northern Hemisphere, enjoy the summer.